Hi, my name is Dave. I'm your host. You're listening to The Last Podcast, where the first shall be last and the last shall be first. If this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. I really appreciate you listening, and I hope you continue to find tips, ideas, and value from listening to this podcast. Today, I want to bring the series of The Lasting Change to a close. This is the moment where we actually bring everything together so that you can see the full picture, because I think and believe a real change does not happen by accident. It happens through a structure. It happens through our foundation, and that's why sometimes we may have to go back and excavate and rebuild our foundation. It happens. If we don't build our foundation, I think that we'll just be moving our lives from one point to another, looking on the outside and instead of doing anything on the inside, like rebuilding our lives with not only structure, but with different belief patterns, habits, and viewpoints, and even our mission statements. All of that, I believe, has to be altered in some form, way, or fashion. That is why so many people get exhausted. We try harder. We might even push ourselves harder. And we might even promise ourselves that this time is going to be different. And yet somehow we find ourselves back in the same emotional cycles and the same mental battles, or even in the same relationship patterns. And that private struggle that goes on within our minds and within our hearts and souls. I tell you, that's what makes it so difficult for the change to really take root and last long. The truth is, lasting change does not begin with the behavior management. It does not begin with the temporary burst of motivation, and we all know that. It begins deeper than that. It begins with the identity. It begins with truth. It begins with that thing that's underneath of it all. What's at our core? What is at our being? And sometimes it goes deeper than that. Where we come from, whose we are, and who we are. That is why the series began with The Battle Within. And if you haven't yet heard that, go back and listen to that episode, The Battle Within. Not the battle that people actually see on the outside, but it's the one that people carry in silence. That quiet war between pain and purpose, survival and healing, old patterns, and the person you were meant to become. Many people are moving, but guess what? They're not healing. Many people are surviving, but they're not whole. Some people sometimes look like they're very strong on the outside. They got it all together. And some might even look like, I got my discipline together, but really it's all about the fear that's raging inside of them. Sometimes what looks like independence is self-protection, until you tell the truth about the battle within. You cannot truly begin to heal it. And that is where truth comes in. That is where you start to recognize what's happening with you on the inside, where it all began. And then we go back and ask ourselves, where did this start? Because the patterns that trouble us now, usually they don't start like right now. They didn't start last week. They didn't start last month, or maybe even last year. Most of the time, they started many years ago. And we built upon those. They were formed years ago in our pain and our confusion and our rejection, fear, even our survival. Something along the way, many of us may enter agreement. Somehow we just told ourselves, or we just started believing. We didn't even tell ourselves. We just started believing that this is the way I am. And, I might not even be enough. I can't do these things, so those people who can do these things are lucky. I have to prove myself, or I have to earn love, or people always leave me. My feelings are just too much. I can't take it anymore. I have to carry everything alone. The danger in all that is not just that those are beliefs, and those beliefs kind of hurt and sting. The danger is that we are starting to believe and build on our lives on top of all of those belief systems. And we just don't think about them. We start to live from them, and we start to build solidly on them. And that's why I say it's all about excavation, because sometimes you have to break the ground and clear your foundation out. And that is why we ask the question of identity matters, and why our identity, your identity, my own identity, why does it matter so much? Not just about who I am, but whose I am. Because until you know whose you are, you'll probably be spending all that time trying to earn what has already been given. You will chase worth, negotiate your value, perform for acceptance, and exhaust yourself trying to secure what you've already settled for, what God has already told you is yours. But you refuse to listen because you looked at what the world was telling you about your worth. Because when your identity becomes anchored, you stop living from, trying to please others. You start living from authentic love from God. And that is key right there. You don't live for approval from others. You'll live from that belonging because you're a part of something much bigger. You begin to understand that your pain may have shaped part of your life, but it does not have the right to name you or become your life or become part of your future. From there, I believe it's all about we're moving on into our beliefs, because beliefs are not just thoughts you have. Beliefs are those thoughts that you have agreed with so many times over and over, they started to feel like truth to you. And that's the same thing with lies. If you start telling a lie over and over and over, guess what? You're going to start to believe your own lies. Once that happens, you don't just think them. You obey them. You build on them. You protect them. And if you believe that you're unworthy of success or you're unworthy of love, you're going to live from that point. If you believe that people always leave you, you're not going to wind up with unhealthy or healthy relationships. You probably won't feel safe because people are always leaving you, right? If you believe that you always fail, then new opportunities, you probably won't try as hard. Even your new opportunities might be like threatening to you. Oh, I can't try that. I've always failed at trying something new. I'm not going to do that. You would cease to pick up on those new opportunities. That belief becomes a blueprint, and that blueprint begins shaping how you react and what you tolerate, what you avoid, and what you keep repeating. And then we talk about how we reach the kitchen of our mind. And that image says so much. Why? Your mind is like the kitchen full of recipe cards. Every major experience writes a recipe. Every wound can write a recipe. Every betrayal can write a recipe. Every disappointment can write a recipe. After a while, you stop realizing that you're living from old recipes. You just call it your personality. You call it your habits. You just call it the way you are. But a lot of what we call personality is really programming. A recipe for how to handle conflict, a recipe for how to interpret rejection, a recipe for how to protect yourself, a recipe for how to expect pain. Well, the good news is this: recipes can be rewritten. Old cards do not have to keep running the kitchen. Old patterns do not have to keep feeding your future. But rewriting the kitchen of your mind is not about pretending the past never happened. It's about refusing to let what happened become your identity. It's about replacing the lies with truth, fear with alignment, and the wounds, patterns with a renewed way of thinking, so to speak. It is saying, I've learned this, but I do not have to keep living this. I don't have to keep living from this. I don't have to keep believing that this is the way my life is going to be shaped. I may have been shaped by pain, but I don't have to stay governed by it. I may have been conditioned one way, but by grace of God, truth, and intentional practice, your mind can be renewed. And that's what God talks about. It's biblical. As a man thinketh, so is he. So when we look at the recipes in our mind, we have an opportunity to change those recipes, make those recipes better. Or if those recipes are no longer serving us, the bad habits, the old conditioning, let's create new ones. And guess what? That takes us into the emotional healing, because you cannot transform a life you refuse to feel. What is buried is still active. What is unprocessed is still influencing you. What is unnamed is still shaping reactions. A lot of people are not just reacting to what is happening today. They're reacting to what today reminds them of what happened in the past. They're living with an emotional leftovers from old wounds, old grief, old abandonment issues, old shame, and old fears. This is why healing matters. This is why self-forgiveness matters. This is why emotional honesty matters. Because if your future keeps getting filtered through unhealed pain, and even good things can feel unsafe, then we move into intentional living. Because healing is not about the whole journey. At some point, you have to build. You cannot stay in the excavation forever, clearing and never start to build on the foundation. There comes a point where you have to ask, what am I building now? Who am I becoming now? What do my daily choices say about my life? I say, what do I want now? Real change is not about to be built on something that's vague. It's about that one moment, that dramatic moment where you sit and say, where do I want to go from here? What do I want to build? It is built in the next right choice. And then one after that, brick by brick, day by day, thought by thought, decision by decision. This is how life is rebuilt, not through perfection, but through alignment and consistency. So I want to close this series. I want to say this clearly to the person listening who feels behind, tired, ashamed, or even discouraged. It's your time. It's never too late to change. Nothing's wrong with you. You're not broken. You might be a little confused. You might not even understand why you keep doing the things you're doing. And you're not too young. You're not too old. You're not too damaged. And you're not disqualified because of the chapters that came before this one. Your pain may explain some things, but it does not get to define everything. Your pain may have shaped you the way you are right now, but it does not own you. Your patterns may be strong, but they're not your master. This series was never just about information. It was about the invitation, an invitation to tell the truth and examine the blueprint, to rewrite the recipes, to renew the mind, and to begin building a life rooted in truth. Because if you don't tell yourself the truth, you can't really build from the inside out. And that's how I want to end this. Not with pressure, not with performance, not with some fake perfect finish or anything of that nature. I want you to understand that this is the way you begin to make a solid change in your life. It's not the end. It's the beginning of lasting change. You may still be healing, but guess what? You're healing. It may take a while to start rebuilding, but guess what? You're going to rebuild. You may still have hard days, and I could pretty much guarantee that. And along the way, as long as you keep God first, believe me, He's the author of it all. This is not the end. This is the beginning of your lasting change. This is the beginning of living from it, living from your truth, and living because this is what is expected of you. But guess what? We don't stop there. Because when you start to build and you start seeing what I want from my life from here on out, you start looking at your vision. Because if you have no vision, the people perish, right? So build on that. Whatever it is, your new beliefs, your new character that you start to build, your new mission statements, build on it and take the old beliefs, package them away and put them out to pasture. Let them rest and start building and planting new seeds and watch them grow within your life. My name is Dave. You're listening to the last podcast. Hey, do me a favor. I'm going to leave a link where you can get the book. It's a workbook that allows you to start that excavation. It starts to ask questions of yourself that matters, that changes your life, because you have to change it from the root. You have to change it from the foundation. And when you start looking at, let me go buy this television, and all of a sudden you want to find out what this television, all the features are, and all the things that it can do. Or if that new television breaks, you want to start looking at, what does the manufacturer say about this? What's happening? And you start to go on that website and you look at the documentation from the manufacturer. It's the same thing about your life. Who created you? You want to see what God says about your life. Who are you in your own life, and whose are you? This is how you do it. This is how you start. Again, my name is Dave. You're listening to the last podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe. Do me another favor and like this podcast. I appreciate you, and I wish the very best for you. And may you receive God's blessings. In Jesus' name, amen. So long.